Welcome to the Unboxable podcast, because there has never been a better time to step into your big girl shoes and realize that you are made for more. More joy, more alignment with your life purpose, and more connection. I'm Elena Turley, and I'm inviting you to join me in exploring how we can connect within ourselves and with those in our circles more deeply so we can make big change while still showing up as the best mothers, women, and humans possible. Let's begin. Hello and welcome, Lisa. How are you?
I'm great, Elena. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So I always ask the same question, which is, who are you? Where are you? And what do you love to do?
Well, I'm Lisa Erickson. I am in Southern California, just south of Los Angeles, and I am an energy worker, or that is my work in the world. I'm also a mother and many other things, but I am an energy worker and I work with the chakras or energy centers, mostly with women. My
Mhm.
specialties are women's energetics, and that includes how our energy systems shift at different life phases, including how it's impacted by parenthood. And I also work with sexual trauma healing a lot.
Amazing work. I'm absolutely fascinated by what you do. What led you to do this work, Lisa?
Well, for myself, my interest in meditation and energy work began in my 20s when I was in my first career as a technology person in New York City, and I was having a lot of headaches and stomach aches that the doctors could not explain. And
Mm.
although it was unusual at the time, because this was over 35 years ago, a doctor finally suggested I try meditation, which now is more a normal thing to recommend, but it was
Yeah.
unusual then. And I happened to wander into or find what a chakra meditation class, which is just one form of meditation, but it's
Wow.
center based. And so that sent me down a whole nother career path that eventually ended up in me moving into this area.
That
Yeah.
is so cool. So where does one go about studying
Mhm.
chakra energy work?
For the most part, from other energy healers and
Yeah.
energy medicine traditions. It was also at first, and it still is, but it's began as just a personal path because the chakras or energy center teachings come down to us through two different paths. One is energy medicine, which
Yeah.
is focused on the intersection with the physical body and also emotional patterns in terms of mental health. And the other chakra teachings come to us from spiritual traditions where it was really oriented around spiritual growth, awakening, enlightenment. So we have kind of two different paths of energy centered teachings. So at
Yeah.
first, mine was really a spiritual path. And then eventually, I also started studying the other branch, the energy healing branch.
And so, can you please, just for those listeners who don't know what we're talking about, can you please share with me how you would explain what is a chakra? What is this energy medicine or spiritual path you're talking about?
Yeah. Chakra means wheel of light in Sanskrit. So that's an ancient Indian word. But I use the word energy center a lot because there are, in fact, energy center mappings and teachings that have come to us from all over the world. So the chakras are energy centers, and we have an energy anatomy, is one way to think of it. And the chakras are like the organs. Like in our body, the major organs, the heart, the stomach, the lungs, each of which links into a whole physical system within our anatomy. Each chakra or main primary energy center is like an organ, and it each maps to different physical systems and also to different emotions and spiritual energies or vibrations. So our energy body really is like this intersection between our physical self and our psyche and our spirit.
Well, that's a beautiful way to say it. And can you tell me also a little bit more about the qualities of a chakra? So, my understanding is that some spin one direction, some spin another direction when they're operating correctly or when they're in health, I guess. Can you
Yeah.
talk to me about that?
The spinning model and that idea of one direction versus the other is in certain traditions and not others. It's not
Interesting.
one that I work with. Yes.
Oh,
So there
cool.
is there is this whole idea that you can even put a pendulum over it, and it is interesting. A lot of interesting things happen. My experience with that particular method is that it is more linked to the health of that chakra in relation to kind of the physical and yourself
Right.
in that moment. But
Yes.
there's layers to the chakra. So the deeper levels that are around kind of your emotional patterns are deeper, and you're not going to sense that in terms of spinning. So there's
Yes.
kind of two different levels to it, and I'm very
Yes.
focused on the chakras as means for emotional transformation, mental health, spiritual transformation, deep healing and transformation. So I'm not as focused on the spinning. And it's
Sure.
more
Yeah.
think in terms of, do you feel like you can fully access the energies associated with that chakra, the emotional states associated with that chakra? Do you have physical
Beautiful.
health in that area of the body? So I'm looking more at that than the spin.
Good. I want to take a pause to share with you the incredible work that the women in the community are doing at the moment to step into big change, into their version of success, healing the obstacles that stop us, helping silence the negative self-talk, the self-doubt that gets in the way of us bringing into the world our biggest visions for ourselves, our families, and our communities. It's a supportive space. You can join a free community and gain a host of resources. It's a really exciting place to be, and you will feel the gentle accountability. www.alenaturley.com. That is ALENATURLEY. I can't wait to see you in there, people. And can you
Yeah.
give us a very quick summary? I believe there are 7,
Mm.
and each correlates with a certain color. I don't know if that's accurate in your modalities, but I always associate them with a certain kind of color and a certain kind of part of the body. So can you talk us through, just give us a general structure and overview for those who are new to this idea? Because many people in the West actually don't know what these things are we're talking about, from my
Yeah,
experience. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, and in fact, around the world, there are different chakra mappings that do different
Mm,
numbers. But what's
cool.
really interesting is how the main ones are pretty standard across
Yeah.
all of the world. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
But I'll walk through the 7 chakra model because that's really the one that is the most well known.
Okay.
And it's really these energy centers that array from kind of the base of your spine, your tailbone, all the way up to the crown of your head. They really run up the center of your body.
Yeah.
And that particular 7 chakra spectrum is usually laid out in the rainbow spectrum of colors. So beginning with red at the first one at your tailbone and moving all the way up to purple. And if you look at a rainbow, you've got this, spectrum.
Yeah.
In fact, in different traditions, you might use different colors on different chakras depending on
Yeah.
what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to clear, balance, heal.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Mm.
so it isn't always so straightforward, but when you see the basic picture of someone meditating with the chakras, they'll do red at the bottom and the rainbow.
Often, yeah.
Do you want me to go through each one then?
Sure.
Is
Tell
that,
us the names and
yeah,
roughly, the emotion or characteristics. Yeah.
yeah.
I'd love that.
So the first chakra, physically, we focus at the tailbone or near there, also tied to the feet and legs, the adrenal glands, the skeletal system, and emotionally linked to feeling grounded, safe in your body, feeling present, security, all different types of security, home, financial, etc. Then the second is in the pelvic bowl. Interesting, because in terms of tying to physical body, it's the only one where there's a slight difference, right? For
Oh,
men,
yes.
gland-wise, it ties to the prostate. For women, it ties to the ovaries, right? And that's the
Yeah.
only one where it's different. So
That's interesting.
yeah, so that ties into all my women's energetic stuff, is a lot of
Mm.
focus on this chakra linked to the reproductive organs and
Yeah.
linked
Cool.
to emotions, sensuality and sexuality, creativity in terms of like inspiration and
Mm.
fluidity, adaptability. They're each linked to an element too. There's so many mappings. So
Oh,
this one is
yes.
water, the root is earth. So then this is the water.
Beautiful.
Third is in the belly area. Sometimes there's variations, whether it's kind of high up in the solar plexus. I prefer to focus at the navel, but either way, it rules that
Interesting.
whole area of the digestive system. And it's linked to personal power, boundaries, confidence, really your sense of self. Then we get to the fourth is the heart, the one that most people know about, or
Mm.
in the center of your chest. this one then is we on the bottom ones, I kind of didn't do the colors. It would be red, orange, yellow. So now we're up
Yeah.
to green,
Green.
which throws people sometimes for the heart. But if you think in terms of plants, spring
Yes.
leaf, that's the way to think about it because plants produce oxygen, and this is linked to our
Mm.
heart and lungs and sort of this purity, freshness, And it's linked to, as you might imagine, relationships, love, being loved, compassion, support, our sense of worth, how we
Mhm.
judge ourselves and others, or not so much how we judge, but how we
Yes.
feel about ourselves and others.
Yes.
So then the throat is blue
Yeah.
and linked, as you might imagine, to expression and the thyroid gland and our neck
Yeah.
and jaw area, and really linked to our ability to express ourselves, but also to hear. I mean, it's really the whole cycle of interacting through
Mm.
expression and really about authenticity because how do you get your
Yeah.
inside out, right? Or the outside in? How do
I
you
mean,
make
that's a
that?
beautiful way to say it.
Yeah, yeah. And then the third eye in the forehead, our third eye being able to see things that aren't seen with the physical eye. So we associate it with intuition, with wisdom, even with self-awareness. And then the crown, the top back part of the head, think halos. It is a
Yes.
very spiritual chakra.
Yes.
Yeah. And linked to belief and faith. For someone who doesn't think in terms of spirituality, we could think in terms of meaning. What do you value that you build a sense of meaning upon in your life? And for many people, that is going to be your view, your spiritual view of the world. But for others, you might express it in other ways. But what do you value and what is your meaning?
Nice. And like connection with something bigger than yourself, almost like
Exactly.
something outside. Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you for describing those so much. And so, how does it work when you approach a person? Give me, without giving away the game, give me a brief run through of how do you start to work with somebody from that perspective, from that modality?
Yeah. And it really depends what they've come to me for. What is their
Sure.
starting point, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's certain for in my particular practice, someone's in a certain phase of life that they really want to address. It could be
Mm,
postpartum, could be perimenopause, could be new
yes.
mother, trying to balance the energy between themselves and their children. Or it
Sure.
could be sexual trauma healing, because I do a lot of that. So we're working then first, I'm going to ask questions about how they feel. What is the problematic emotions? And I kind of would put problematic in air
Yeah.
quotes. No emotions are problematic,
I know.
but you perceive it as like these are,
Yes.
suffering in some way from
Yes.
anxiety or from self-doubt or from fatigue.
Yes.
I mean, it could be physical, it could be emotional. And
Yes.
we're going to be trying to get to the patterns underneath that. And what chakras do they link to? How do we bring more energy into that chakra? How do we release the blocks, which is really about rewriting? If you have an emotional
Yes.
pattern that blocks a certain chakra, it's about how do you rewrite and create a new pattern. And
Yeah,
how did
that's
the old
interesting.
pattern yeah, how did the old pattern develop?
And how do
Yeah.
people do that? Rewrite a new pattern?
Mm. Well, talk therapy is a way of doing this, right? You're usually
Yes.
trying to get at what my patterns are, how they developed, and then you're trying to develop new ones. So this is an energy approach to that. We're first kind of revoking, releasing the old patterns, really identifying them, and then trying to bring in a new way of being. And I might do that. One is you have to practice. It's like strength
Mm.
training. You have
Yes.
to practice, it's not necessarily formal meditation, but chakra activations to get more comfortable with, say, your heart being more open, right?
Yeah.
Then, when you have situations where you've recognized your heart shut down, we'll be going through those in memories and really trying to rewrite what was the trigger that caused the wall to go up, the habitual wall, right? And then we're going to be working on rewriting that. What would have been a different way? So, at first, you're rewriting it in retrospect and you're trying to bring more of this energy
Mm.
in. And eventually, you start catching yourself in the moment, perhaps even focusing on the heart in that moment. So it's just a way energetically of doing that work. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And do you have a bigger vision for the work that you do? Is there something that drives you in terms of, I mean, I know you said you had a spiritual journey and that's what brought you to the work, but what keeps you in the work?
Mm. Well, I think, yeah, I love the work because when you see people transform, that's very gratifying. And it also renews your own belief and faith, right, in what's
Mm.
happening.
Mhm.
I am especially devoted to the empowerment of women. I think within the traditions that teach or taught this work in various forms, they were in patriarchal cultures. And so there has been a lack of attention to women and their issues. And so this is a very powerful way to address that.
There's an element of bringing power back in a very feminine way, and I think this is a real theme at the moment. It feels like there's, it's an interesting world that we live in right now, and feels like that there is a big imperative or a calling to bring back feminine ways of knowing and feminine styles of power. Not
Yeah,
power over, but power in is the way I put that.
exactly. And that ties exactly to the chakras in terms of what the sacral chakra represents, the second
Mm,
chakra that we spoke about, which is
yeah.
about this fluidity. And it's a lot of types of power that have been denigrated. And
Yes.
so it's really helping both men and women become comfortable with all forms of power and valuing
Yes.
that form of power flow just as
Mm,
much as kind of dominance. And there's a place
yes.
for structure and even maybe dominance in a certain form in terms of hierarchy. And then there's a place
Sure.
for flow. And then
Yes.
energetically, how do you make sure both are valued within yourself and both are accessible to you?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
so true. And there is masculine in the feminine and feminine in the masculine, like
Yeah,
the
the yin and yang.
yin yang, right? So every woman has masculine and feminine, every man has masculine and feminine, and we need them both, we need them all. And I think it's a really interesting time to be talking about this, because it does sometimes feel like, I don't know, it's an interesting thing being a woman who is in her power, and I'm not all the time, but I can be, at times. And it has an interesting effect. Talk to me about what happens when a person rebalances or realigns or re-energizes their chakras with you. What are
Mhm.
the effects of that on those around them, on their
Mm.
lives? Talk to me about the effect.
Yeah. Well, it really can go different ways. I mean, sometimes it makes other people uncomfortable because
Right.
we really sort of tend to hold people in a certain vision. And so when
Yeah.
we feel something different from them, that makes them uncomfortable. But that is also a tremendous opportunity for them to shift. There's a ripple
Yeah.
effect. You shift. And all you ever really can control is your own reactions, your own
Sure.
internal state and vibration, and let go of how other people respond to that and let it play out. But I think it's very fascinating how often people expect, like they've been building up to kind of maybe finally standing up for themselves, having the ability to draw a new boundary with someone, and they're expecting a really negative response. And in fact,
Mm.
there's just a sort of rearranging and the person adjusts and they realize, oh, that was way more me than them, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes I was holding myself back more than I
Yes.
realized. It wasn't the other person. Of course, sometimes there is friction as you grow into your power. Other
Sure.
people are threatened by that. And you're just trying to continue to build your own sense of your own energetic integrity that you can withstand that reaction and it'll pass.
Yes. And that
Yeah.
it's not up to you to control any of that.
Yeah.
Obviously within
It'll
reason,
pass.
as long as you're not hurting anybody, obviously. But I think
Yeah.
it's a really fascinating thing. I often have noticed, certainly in my own life, my own experience, that when I get my own house in order, if you like,
Mhm.
sometimes causes a ripple effect of kind of raising up the people around me as well. And I think that's a
Mhm.
really fascinating thing to observe. And sometimes it's unexpected, and sometimes it's quite heartening, actually. I've noticed that, if I work on myself to be more present, my kids feel the benefit of that, for example, or my partner or my family or whatever, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. And I wonder, is there a technical chakra thing going on there? Is this
Mm.
an energy thing? Or is this just what happens? How do you explain it?
We are exchanging energy all the time whenever we interact with someone, but usually it's not so intentional. It's just whatever mood we're in, right?
Mm.
So as you become more aware of your own energy and what you are, actually emitting, Yeah, it really is a different kind of exchange going on, right? Or when you start to decide, okay, I'm not just going to mirror the emotions of everyone around me. My
Yeah.
kids are in a bad mood. I'm not going to take that on as my responsibility. I can just be here emanating out a peace and a calm.
Yeah.
I know how to do that regardless of how the people around me feel, and that
Yeah.
will eventually benefit them.
So
Not
do
in
you
a
think?
sort of feel differently, get positive way, right? Just sort of being.
Yes, accepting. And I
Yeah.
wonder, is there practices that you would recommend? I don't really like to talk about energy protection. I think sometimes energy protection is important, but it's rare. That's sort of extreme. But do you
Yes.
talk at all about energy hygiene? How do we kind of
I
clear
do
our
a lot.
fields?
Yes.
Talk to me about that because I do
Yeah.
too in my practice, and I'd
I
love
do
to
a
hear.
lot of, for women in particular, because
Yes,
women tend to have more of an issue
we're
with
such
it.
sponges.
Yes, and there's technical reasons in women's energetics why that is, because we're rooted in the sacral chakra and it's more yin, and then there's conditioning reasons, right? That we're
Yes,
conditioned to be people pleasers, responsible for others' emotions, all of that stuff.
right, right.
Yeah, so I work a lot with energy boundary, a very basic one I call second skin that's anchored in the root and the navel, that is about imagining you have an energy skin, right? What does our skin do? It
Mm,
keeps like microbes from getting just into our bloodstream directly, right? So it's like
that's
it holds
nice.
everything together. So just having this energy skin that is other people's emotions bounce off of you. You still sense them and you can emanate out whatever you wish, right? Whatever you choose, but you don't take them in, you don't absorb them. And that takes time to kind of
Mm,
repattern. But if you,
mm,
this is a particular activation where if you work with it regularly, you can repattern the default way you carry your energy in the world. And then I
mm.
work with sort of the fire element in the navel chakra as a effective means of clearing out when you feel like I have taken on someone else's energy.
Yes.
So those are two that I do all the time and I teach all the time.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm often drawn to the water with the clearing, like
Mhm.
showers and light
No, and
visualizations.
I do that physically for sure. Yeah.
Yes. And ocean, like going into the natural waters, asking the waters to help clear me, all of those things. And it sounds silly, but man, it feels so good,
No, the
and
elements, the chakras are linked to the elements and they all have different powers to them for sure.
yes, yes. And I
Yeah.
do think it's interesting that like different people will be drawn to different elements.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm in practice, I'll be like, give it back to the earth. Other times I'll say, take it to the sea. I don't know why I say what, but maybe there's an intuition element going on there. Never thought about it
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
beautiful. I think there probably is. When you
Yeah, it's
need
really cool.
grounding or stability, when you
Yeah.
need fluidity, when you need the kind of cutting through a fire, right?
Yeah. And
And then
like
air in
you,
the heart. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right, with the air. Yeah. And I think it's really beautiful to acknowledge, like, I don't know about you, but I think we do develop, I think our intuition is always there, or our ability to discern the energy needs of a person we're working with, say, or the energy circumstance of a person that we're working with. But, and it's definitely for me become better with practice, but it's not like a practice that I deliberately sat down and went, I'm going to learn how to do this. What has happened over time is I guess I've developed a greater confidence that whatever it is that I'm feeling or thinking in relation to that person in that one-to-one therapeutic sense is accurate. I don't
Yeah.
second guess it. So the
Yeah.
difference is not whether it's there or not. The difference is that I'm trusting it.
Yeah. And at the very least, you trust to bring it up. That's how I
Yeah.
work, right? It
Right.
isn't like
It's not,
people
it might
think
be
of
wrong.
intuition as being like you get this flash of some truth. No, you get something that is a message that, oh, we
Yeah.
need to bring this in. I just got this visual, or I just
Yeah.
had this thought, or I feel compelled to ask you, or
Yes.
and it's a dynamic, and they're like, oh wow, that sounds like my grandfather. I didn't even think of them, but he
Yeah.
does seem connected to,
Yeah.
you don't know what it is, right? And you don't
Right.
have to know. It's more fluid. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that trusting is everything,
The
right? Because
trust
we
and
really
building
are,
that.
yeah, because we're conditioned to shut it out.
We really
So
are. And it's
yeah,
great to start to unwind that and unfurl that so that you can be more present, and clear. So do you
yeah.
have an energy chakra healer that does you?
Very good question. At this point, I'm a long time Buddhist practitioner, and I
Mm,
do in a lineage
beautiful.
that is pretty formal in terms of teachings and
Beautiful.
practices that I'm always doing around my own self-awareness. So at this point, that is where I turn to
Beautiful.
when I need to reconnect and strengthen my own wisdom. Yeah.
And is
My
it a
practice is
particular?
not Buddhist, but that, my own, That's my own sustenance.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. And is it a particular kind of Buddhism from a particular
Yeah,
place?
Tibetan Buddhism. Tibetan Buddhism.
Tibetan.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
in this lineage of Lama Tsultrim Allione.
Wow.
Mhm.
Have you been there?
She's in Colorado, and so
Okay.
yes, I go there frequently. Yes.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, it's so lovely to speak with you, Lisa. Is there anything else that you felt to share today?
Mm.
Apart from obviously how people can find you and how they can get
Yeah,
in
yeah,
touch, all of that. We'll get to all of that. But is there anything you particularly wanted to
yeah.
share with the audience today?
I think just if there's anyone that is new to this concept of an energy body, to chakras, to energy center, you don't have to believe in it in terms of cognitively, like, yes, I believe or not. Just give something a try.
Mm,
Try a little chakra meditation, find something in a meditation app, find a book. Just give it a try and see if you feel something and go from there. Just go from
mm.
there and see if it resonates for you.
Beautiful. Build your own trust in your own intuition, your
Yeah.
own guidance system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
Oh, I love that, Lisa. It's really beautiful to meet you. And I will obviously put all of your details in the notes underneath this show. And I feel quite privileged to have had this conversation with you one to one and to have benefited from your knowledge and wisdom today. Thank you so much.
You. I can feel your wisdom too. So now I wish I could interview you, but
That can be
so
arranged.
much for the invitation. Yeah, I don't have a podcast, but yes.
We can just hang out. It's
Wonderful.
happened before.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's always so wonderful to meet wise women in the world doing this kind of work and sharing it. So thank
Thank
you.
you. This has been a production made with love, and I will continue to offer the best possible resources to assist you in staying connected and reconnecting if you've lost connection to your deeper purpose and your deeper meaning, so that you can go out and make the big change that I know that you are called to do. If you know another woman who might enjoy this, please share it with her. Leave a review, get in touch with me on socials or inside the Soul Mama community through the website in the show notes. I really love connecting with women on this journey. It's seriously what I am here to do. And I absolutely love bringing these conversations to you. So anything you can do to help me spread the word really helps it reach more women who need this special magic. Thank you for being here. I'll see you soon.